Friedrich Nietzsche, the 19th-century German philosopher, remains one of the most provocative and misunderstood thinkers in history. His critiques of morality, religion, and culture continue to ripple through intellectual life. But what if Nietzsche were alive in 2025? How would his radical philosophy engage with a world dominated by technology, social upheaval, and existential questions about humanity's future? Imagining Nietzsche in our present day illuminates both the relevance and the danger of his thought. Nietzsche and the digital age. In Nietzsche's time, the greatest challenges were nationalism, religious authority, and the moral certainties of modernity. In 2025, the battleground is digital. Social media platforms shape identities, artificial intelligence challenges human creativity, and algorithms nudge choices more subtly than any priest or monarch ever could. Nietzsche would likely see this as a new form of what he called the herd mentality. Instead of the church dictating morality, the crowd-sourced outrage and curated feeds of platforms like X, TikTok, and Instagram would embody the same impulse: conformity. He would not be surprised that most people willingly surrender their individuality to digital validation. Nietzsche might argue that the true, last man, of our time, the complacent, mediocre human he warned about in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, is the content consumer endlessly scrolling, anesthetized by entertainment and incapable of authentic creation. The will to power in a globalized world. Nietzsche's central idea, the will to power, is the drive to assert, expand, and create beyond limits. In 2025, this will manifest not only in individuals but in corporations, governments, and technologies. Tech giants like Apple, Google, and OpenAI reshape human existence on a scale Nietzsche could hardly imagine. He might see in Silicon Valley both a dazzling potential for creativity and a terrifying descent into new dogmas. The rise of artificial intelligence would fascinate him. Nietzsche distrusted rigid systems of thought, believing they stifled vitality. AI, with its capacity to mimic and optimize, could be seen as the ultimate triumph of system over spirit. Yet he might also view it as an arena where the will to power is exercised, human beings creating something that transcends themselves. Nietzsche could ask, is AI a tool for the overman, the higher type who creates new values, or is it merely another comfort mechanism for the last man? Death of God in the 21st century. Nietzsche famously declared, "God is dead," describing not a literal death but the collapse of traditional religious belief as a source of meaning. In 2025, the question of meaning is sharper than ever. While organized religion still exists, secularism dominates much of the West. Instead of God, people turn to wellness culture, political ideologies, fandoms, and digital communities to fill the void. Nietzsche would likely critique these as shallow substitutes, new idols that mask, rather than answer, the deeper existential crisis. Climate change, pandemics, and geopolitical instability have only deepened the need for meaning. Nietzsche might argue that humanity has not yet faced the implications of God's death, that we must create values from ourselves, not inherit them from institutions. He would see in our struggles an urgent call for the overman, the figure who transcends herd values and dares to live creatively in the face of chaos. Nietzsche and identity politics. One of the striking aspects of 2025 is the centrality of identity politics. Movements around race, gender, sexuality, and equity dominate public discourse. Nietzsche's reaction would be complex. On one hand, he despised systems that reduce individuals to categories or moral labels, seeing them as barriers to personal greatness. He might critique some forms of identity politics as herd moralities dressed in modern language. On the other hand, his philosophy emphasized the necessity of struggle and overcoming. Nietzsche might recognize in marginalized groups struggles a raw form of the will to power, the drive to assert existence and reshape values against oppressive traditions. Yet he would not stop at collective liberation. For Nietzsche, the true task is always individual, becoming who you are, beyond imposed identities, beyond conformity. The eternal return in a world of crisis. Another key Nietzschean concept is the eternal return, the challenge to live as though every moment will recur infinitely. In an age of ecological collapse, political uncertainty, and technological acceleration, Nietzsche's test would be more urgent than ever. Could we affirm life as it is, without escape, even in the face of repetition? In 2025, many cope by fantasizing about escape, through virtual reality, space colonization, or digital immortality. Nietzsche would dismiss these as evasions. His challenge would be to embrace the full weight of existence, with all its suffering, and still say, yes, to life. Nietzsche as a voice for the future. If Nietzsche lived in 2025, he would not be a comfortable figure. He would critique our comforts, mock our illusions, and demand we face life without easy consolations. His writings would probably ignite online storms, censored by platforms for being too provocative. Yet his vision of the overman, one who creates meaning in the face of a meaningless universe, remains strikingly relevant. In a time when technology tempts us to escape human limits, Nietzsche would insist that true greatness lies not in avoidance but in transformation. He would challenge us to overcome the digital herd, to embrace the chaos of the age, and to forge values worthy of existence. Perhaps the most Nietzschean question for 2025 is not, what if he lived today? But, who among us dares to live as he demanded, without illusions, without gods, with only our will to power and our courage to create?